Madam Folashade Adeyemi stared at the framed magazine cover hanging in her son's study. 30 under 30. Dayo Adeyemi revolutionizes Nigerian fashion retail. Her chest swelled with pride as it always did when she thought of her son's accomplishments, but that feeling quickly gave way to a familiar worry that had been gnawing at her for months. At 42, Dayo was Nigeria's most eligible bachelor. Handsome, educated at London Business School, and worth billions from his fashion retail empire, DaStyle. Yet, he was painfully alone. The public breakup with supermodel Tola Ogunleye 3 years ago had left him wary of relationships. Folashade knew her son believed every woman who approached him now was after his money or fame. "Mama, you're still here?" Dayo's voice startled her as he entered the study. "It's late. The driver can take you home." Folashade smiled at her son. Unlike many wealthy Nigerians who shipped their parents abroad or to village homes, Dayo had insisted she live in a house just 10 minutes from his mansion in New Lagos, the glittering enclave where Nigeria's nouveau riche displayed their wealth with architectural extravagance. "I was just admiring my son," she said, gesturing to the magazine. The pride of Ibadan has become the pride of Nigeria. Dayo loosened his tie and sank into a leather armchair. "Business meetings all day. The new flagship store in Abuja is giving me headaches. The designer team doesn't understand my vision." Folashade seized the opening. "You work too hard, my son. When will you find time for a wife, for children? Your father would have wanted grandchildren." Dayo's expression hardened. "Mama, please, not tonight, after Tola. It's complicated." "Life is always complicated, Dayo. But a man needs family." "I have you," he said with a tired smile. "I won't live forever," she replied softly. "And you need someone who understands you, not just your money." Dayo's phone buzzed and he glanced at it, already distracted. Another crisis. "The design for the spring collection is falling apart. I need to make calls." After her son disappeared into his home office, Folashade stood in the quiet study, her mind working. For 30 years, she had run one of Ibadan's largest fabric stalls in OJ Market before Dayo convinced her to retire. She had negotiated with suppliers, outmaneuvered competitors, and raised a son alone after her husband died. Finding a wife for her stubborn son would require all her market woman cunning. The next morning, over breakfast in her kitchen, she shared her plan with her oldest friend, Mama Chinyere. "You want to do what?" Chinyere exclaimed, nearly choking on her puff-puff. "Pretend to be a cleaner at DaStyle headquarters? Shade, have you lost your mind?" "How else will I see the women as they truly are?" Folashade countered, pouring more tea. "In Dayo's presence, everyone wears a mask. But to a cleaner, they reveal their true character. But your son is a billionaire. Everyone knows his mother. You'll be recognized immediately." Folashade smiled slyly. 20 years selling fabric in OJ taught me how to become invisible when needed. Besides, these young people never look cleaners in the face, and I was an actress in university, remember? That was 40 years ago, and it was one church play. I need to find him someone real, Chinyere. Someone who values hard work and sees beyond money. Someone who would have loved him when we had nothing. Chinyere sighed, recognizing the determined set of her friend's jaw. "The things we do for our children. What does your household staff think you're doing all day? Volunteering at the Women's Center, which I already do 3 days a week. I'll just tell them I'm increasing my hours." 2 days later, Folashade Adeyemi, former market queen of Ibadan, mother to one of Nigeria's wealthiest men, stood at the employee entrance of the gleaming DaStyle headquarters in Victoria Island. Her normally immaculate lace and geode were replaced by a simple blue maid's uniform. Her expensive jewelry was gone, her makeup minimal, her posture slightly stooped. Clutching a fake employment letter from Sparkle's Cleaning Services, arranged through her nephew who owed her a favor, she took a deep breath and stepped inside. Just another invisible cleaner in a city that never truly saw them. Operation Find Dayo a Wife had officially begun. The 20-story DaStyle headquarters gleamed like a crystal obelisk against the Lagos skyline. Inside, Folashade quickly learned the building's rhythms. The security guards nodded to her without really seeing her. The receptionists barely glanced up. Young executives in tailored suits and stilettos rushed past, phones glued to their ears, unseeing. Just as she had predicted, she was invisible. For her first week, she cleaned the lower floors, marketing, accounting, logistics, observing, and learning. She befriended other cleaners, mostly women supporting families on meager salaries. Their stories reminded her of her early days as a struggling market woman with a young son. These women revealed the building's gossip network, a treasure trove of information about who was who at DaStyle. 14th floor is where you find the real powers, whispered Auntie Bisi, a grandmother who had been cleaning offices for 20 years. That's the design team. That's where your Oyinbo boss's son spends his time when he's in the building. Folashade had to suppress a smile at hearing Dayo described as Oyinbo due to his light-skinned complexion and Western education. Is he a good boss? She asked innocently. Strict, but fair, Auntie Bisi replied. Pays better than most companies. But since that model broke his heart, he's been like thunder, quick to anger, especially with the designers. By the second week, Folashade had maneuvered her way onto the 14th floor cleaning team. The design department hummed with creative energy. Walls covered with sketches, mannequins draped in fabric samples, young people arguing passionately over color palettes and hemlines. Her first day there, she saw her son in his element. Dayo strode through the floor like a general inspecting troops, impeccably dressed in a navy suit that she knew cost more than what most of his employees made in months. The silhouette is all wrong, he was saying to a nervous-looking young man holding up a design board. This is meant to be affordable luxury. Your beadwork would price it out of our target market. But sir, the current trend, the designer began. I don't follow trends, I set them. Dayo cut him off. Redesign it. I want to see options by tomorrow. Folashade watched her sons retreating back with a mixture of pride and concern. The market woman in her approved of his business acumen. He wasn't wrong about the pricing strategy. But the mother in her noted how the staff tensed in his presence, how conversation died when he entered a room. Later that day, while emptying trash bins, she overheard two young female designers talking in hushed tones. He rejected the entire summer collection. 3 months of work gone, said one, fighting back tears. That's Dayo for you. Nothing is ever good enough, replied the other. Ever since the Tola disaster, he doesn't trust anyone, especially women. Did you see Stephanie trying to flirt with him in the meeting? So desperate. As if he'd notice. The man's married to this company. Folashade filed away this information. The eligible women at DaStyle seemed either intimidated by her son or calculated in their approach. Neither would make a good wife. On Thursday, while cleaning the conference room after a tense meeting, she encountered a young woman she hadn't seen before. Seated alone at the massive table surrounded by fabric swatches and sketches, the woman didn't notice Folashade enter. She was completely absorbed in her work, making rapid notes on a tablet while occasionally draping fabric over her arm to examine how it caught the light. Unlike the polished, trend-conscious designers who populated the 14th floor, this woman dressed simply. A crisp white button-down shirt, natural hair pulled back in a practical bun, minimal makeup. Yet there was an elegance to her that transcended her plain appearance. Sorry, Ma, I come back later, Folashade said in the slightly broken English she had adopted for her role. The woman looked up, startled, then smiled. It transformed her serious face. No need, please continue. I'm just working through some ideas. I'll be out of your way soon. No problem, Ma. Take your time. Folashade began wiping down the far end of the table. What's your name? The woman asked unexpectedly. Surprised at being asked, most employees never bothered, Folashade hesitated before answering with her cover name. Mama Joy. I'm Biodun. Nice to meet you. The woman returned to her work but added, There's water if you're thirsty, gesturing to a pitcher on the credenza. Such a simple courtesy, yet it struck Folashade forcefully. This woman, Biodun, had seen her, acknowledged her humanity in a way few others in the building had done. Folashade watched discreetly as Biodun continued working, her face a study in concentration. Who was she? She didn't carry herself like the other ambitious young people scrambling for Dayo's attention. You work late, like Olga, Folashade ventured. Biodun smiled ruefully. Sometimes good ideas don't come until everyone else has gone home. As Folashade left the conference room, she felt the first stirring of possibility. Perhaps her market woman's intuition hadn't failed her after all. Over the next week, Folashade made it her mission to learn everything about Biodun. The cleaning staff proved to be her most valuable intelligence network. Biodun Adebayo? She's not like the others, Auntie Bisi informed her during their lunch break in the staff room. Been here 3 years but keeps to herself. No office politics. What's her position? Folashade asked, picking at her jollof rice. That's the thing, said another cleaner named Mercy. She's just a junior designer, but they say she's brilliant. Created that Adir-inspired collection last year that sold out in hours. So why isn't she senior by now? Mercy leaned closer. They say she doesn't play the game, won't flatter the bosses or take credit for others' work. And, she lowered her voice further, she once disagreed with Olga Dayo in a meeting. Publicly. Folashade's eyebrows shot up. Few people dared contradict her son, especially after his rise to power. What happened? He was pushing for some Western-inspired designs, and she argued for more authentic Nigerian elements. Said we shouldn't always be following Europe. He didn't fire her, but she's been overlooked for promotion twice. This information intrigued Folashade, a woman of principle who stood her ground, rare in an industry built on flattery and trends. The following day, Folashade arranged to clean the design studio during lunch when most staff were out. As she expected, Biodun remained, absorbed in work at her small desk in the corner, far from the window offices of senior designers. Folashade deliberately bumped into Biodun's chair, sending a stack of sketches fluttering to the floor. Sorry, Ma," she exclaimed, bending quickly to help gather the papers. It's okay, Mama Joy, Biodun said, kneeling beside her. No harm done. As they collected the scattered designs, Folashade paused at one sketch, a modern take on traditional Yoruba attire, reimagined for everyday urban wear. The attention to detail was exceptional, the marriage of tradition and contemporary styling masterful. This is beautiful, Folashade said, forgetting to maintain her cleaner persona. Biodun looked surprised, then pleased. You have an eye for design, Mama Joy? Folashade recovered quickly. My mother sewed traditional clothes in village. I learn little. Biodun smiled, taking the sketch. This is a personal project, not for the company. Why not? Is very good. A shadow crossed Biodun's face. DaStyle is moving away from Nigerian-inspired designs. More international focus now. But this is special. Different. Thank you, Mama Joy. Biodun carefully straightened the papers. Maybe someday I'll start my own small line. Over the next few days, Folashade observed Biodun in meetings. The young woman spoke rarely but intelligently. While others scrambled for Dayo's approval, Biodun focused on the work itself. Yet Folashade noticed how often her son's eyes flickered to Biodun when someone else was speaking, as if unconsciously valuing her reactions. The opportunity Folashade had been waiting for arrived the following week. The design team was in crisis over the upcoming Lagos Fashion Week collection. Samples weren't working, time was running short, and Dayo was furious. This is amateur work, he shouted, pacing the conference room where the entire design department sat in chastened silence. We have 6 weeks until the biggest fashion event in West Africa, and this is what you bring me? Folashade, ostensibly cleaning the corridor outside, watched through the glass walls as her son berated his team. His perfectionism had built his empire, but sometimes it blinded him to potential solutions. We need something authentic but modern, distinctly Nigerian but globally appealing. And you give me these Western knockoffs? In the tense silence that followed, Biodun cleared her throat. All heads turned. I might have something, she said quietly. Dayo's eyebrows rose. Biodun, isn't it? Junior designer? Yes, sir. And what do you have that my senior designers don't? Without a word, Biodun opened her portfolio and spread several sketches on the table. From her vantage point, Folashade could see they were variations of the designs she had admired days earlier. The room fell silent as Dayo examined the sketches. His face revealed nothing, but Folashade knew her son. The slight tilt of his head, the focused stillness. He was impressed. These are unexpected, he finally said. They blend Adir techniques with contemporary urban silhouettes, Biodun explained, gaining confidence. Each piece tells a Nigerian story while remaining accessible to international markets. You developed these on your own time? Yes, sir. Dayo looked at his senior designers, then back at Biodun. I want prototypes of these 3 designs by Monday. If they work, we'll feature them in the show. After the meeting dispersed, Folashade watched her son linger, studying Biodun's sketches. Something had shifted. For the first time in months, he looked energized rather than angry. That evening, as Folashade prepared to leave, she passed the design studio and saw Biodun still working. Determination etched on her face. The seeds had been planted. Now, Folashade needed to nurture them carefully. On her way home, she smiled to herself. Phase 1 of her plan was complete. She had identified a worthy candidate. Now came the harder part, making her proud son see what was right in front of him. The weekend passed in a blur of activity as Folashade balanced her real life with her undercover mission. On Sunday, she visited Dayo for their weekly family dinner, fighting to keep her newfound knowledge from showing on her face. How's the Fashion Week collection coming along? She asked innocently as they ate jollof rice and grilled fish on his terrace overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. Dayo looked up, surprised. Since when do you follow my business so closely? A mother always pays attention, she replied smoothly. You seemed stressed last week. He set down his fork. We had a breakthrough, actually. A junior designer brought forward some concepts that might save the collection. Oh, someone new? Not new, just overlooked, perhaps. A shadow of guilt crossed his face. Biodun Adebayo, been with us 3 years, has a unique perspective on Nigerian fashion. Folashade hid her smile behind her napkin. She sounds impressive. She's dedicated. Worked all weekend on prototypes. He paused. Reminds me a little of you, actually. Me? How so? Stubborn. Principled. His lips quirked. Not afraid to tell me I'm wrong. Monday morning brought excitement to the 14th floor. Biodun's prototypes had exceeded expectations. Folashade, mopping nearby, overheard the senior design director telling colleagues that Dayo had scheduled an unusual one-on-one meeting with Biodun to discuss her concepts further. The meeting was set for 7 p.m., after most staff had departed. Folashade arranged to be cleaning the executive floor at that time, her curiosity overwhelming her usual caution. She was dusting the credenza outside Dayo's office when Biodun arrived, carrying a portfolio and looking nervous but determined. Through the partially open door, Folashade could hear their conversation. These designs capture exactly what I've been trying to articulate, Dayo was saying. Contemporary, but rooted in culture. How did you develop this perspective? My grandmother was an Adir artist in Abeokuta, Biodun replied. I grew up watching her hands tell stories through fabric. When I studied fashion in London, I realized our traditional techniques could speak to modern markets without losing their soul. You studied abroad. Your file says local education only. I had a 1-year scholarship. It's not prominent on my CV because I don't want opportunities based on Western credentials rather than actual work. Folashade smiled to herself. Principled indeed. The conversation continued, moving from design philosophy to practical production concerns. Dayo was engaged in a way Folashade hadn't seen in years, asking questions, truly listening to the answers. Then came the moment that confirmed Folashade's instincts. Why didn't you bring these designs forward earlier? Dayo asked. A pause. With respect, sir, I did. Twice. Your previous direction was to focus on Western influences, so my concepts were shelved. Instead of the defensive anger Folashade expected, her son was silent for several moments. "I've been short-sighted," he finally said, "chasing international validation when our strength lies in our unique heritage." "Not short-sighted," Biodun countered gently, "just perhaps looking so far ahead you missed what was beside you." The metaphor hung in the air, laden with unintended meaning. Folashade held her breath. "I'd like you to lead this collection," Dayo said. "Promotion to senior designer, effective immediately." "I appreciate that, but I'd rather earn it through the work itself. Let's see how the collection performs." Folashade nearly dropped her dusting cloth. Who refused an on-the-spot promotion from Dayo Adeyemi? As Biodun left the office, she nodded politely to Folashade. "Good evening, Mama Joy." Watching her son's thoughtful expression as he watched Biodun walk away, Folashade knew. The seed had not only been planted, but had begun to sprout. 3 weeks before Lagos Fashion Week, DaStyle headquarters buzzed with renewed energy. Biodun's collection had become the centerpiece of their showcase, with Dayo personally involved in every aspect of development. The 14th floor hummed with activity as seamstresses, models, and photographers transformed concepts into reality. Folashade watched it all unfold with satisfaction. Her plan was progressing perfectly, until it wasn't. The complication arrived in a red designer dress and 6-inch Louboutin. Tola Ogunleye, supermodel and Dayo's ex-fiancée, swept into the building one Tuesday morning, trailing paparazzi and whispers. "What is she doing here?" Auntie Bisi hissed as they watched from the service corridor. "Trouble," Folashade muttered, forgetting her cleaner persona. She soon learned that Tola had been booked as the headline model for Fashion Week. The public relations value was too great to ignore. Her international profile would guarantee global coverage. From her strategic cleaning positions, Folashade observed Tola's calculated re-entry into Dayo's orbit. The lingering touches during fittings, the private jokes, the late meetings over champagne. Even more concerning was Dayo's response. Though initially cool, he gradually warmed to Tola's charm offensive. Folashade recognized the familiar pattern. Her son had always been susceptible to beauty paired with sophisticated flattery. Meanwhile, Biodun retreated further into her work. Though technically leading the collection, she found herself increasingly sidelined in decisions involving Tola. The supermodel insisted on modifications that compromised the design's cultural integrity, and Dayo, distracted by Tola's attention, often agreed. One evening, Folashade found Biodun alone in the studio, meticulously hand-dyeing fabric samples. "You work late again, Ma," Folashade said softly. Biodun looked up, her eyes tired but determined. The indigo needs time to set properly. Machine dyeing wouldn't give the right effect. "Beautiful work," Folashade said, genuinely admiring the intricate patterns. "Thank you." Biodun gestured to a chair. "Rest if you like, Mama Joy. You've been on your feet all day." Such consideration for a cleaner, it confirmed everything Folashade believed about Biodun's character. "The supermodel lady, she changed your designs?" Folashade ventured. Biodun's smile tightened. "Tola has strong opinions. And Olga listened to her opinions? She's internationally known. Her insights on global trends are valuable. But these are your designs, your stories." Biodun carefully hung a dyed fabric to dry. "In fashion, we must be flexible. Not if it breaks the spirit of the work." Biodun looked at her curiously. "You understand more than you let on, Mama Joy." The next day brought matters to a head. Dayo called an all-hands meeting to announce that Tola would not only model but also receive co-creator credit for the collection. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Biodun, who sat perfectly still, her face a careful mask. When Tola floated to the front to offer a practiced speech about collaborative vision, Folashade saw Biodun quietly slip out of the room. Following her to the stairwell, Folashade found Biodun sitting alone, composing herself. "You leaving?" Folashade asked. "Just taking a moment," Biodun replied, though her packed design portfolio suggested otherwise. "Fight for your work," Folashade urged, forgetting her disguise in her urgency. Biodun looked up, surprised by the authority in the cleaner's voice. Some battles aren't worth fighting, Mama Joy. This one is. Folashade sat beside her. Your vision deserves to be seen. Truly seen. As Biodun studied her face, a new wariness entered her expression. Who are you, really? Folashade realized her mistake too late. In her concern, she had revealed too much of herself. The businesswoman, not the cleaner. The carefully constructed facade was beginning to crack. I asked who you really are, Biodun repeated, her voice firmer now. Folashade weighed her options quickly. The compassion that had drawn her to Biodun might now become her undoing. I am cleaner, she insisted, looking away. No market woman from Ohé speaks about creative vision and artistic integrity like you just did, Biodun said softly. Your accent slips sometimes. You watch everything, and the other cleaners defer to you subtly, even though you're supposedly new. Folashade sighed. Clever girl. This was exactly why she'd marked Biodun as worthy of her son. If I tell you truth, you promise not to run away? From job, from collection, she bargained. Biodun studied her face. I promise to listen. Folashade straightened, letting her affected posture and accent fall away. My name is Folashade Adeyemi. It took only seconds for recognition to dawn in Biodun's eyes. Adeyemi, you're his mother. Dayo's mother? Yes. But why would you… Biodun stood abruptly, realization washing over her face. Have you been spying on me? On the company? Not spying, observing. For what purpose? Biodun's voice had taken on a dangerous edge. To see people's true character, how they behave when they think no one important is watching. Folashade remained seated, keeping her voice calm. In my experience, how someone treats those they consider beneath them reveals more than how they treat equals or superiors. And what exactly were you hoping to observe about me? Nothing specifically about you. I was watching everyone. I don't understand. Folashade decided honesty was her only option. My son needs someone who values substance over appearance, character over status. Someone who will challenge him, not just flatter him. After Tola hurt him, he closed his heart. I wanted to find someone worthy of reopening it. Biodun's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to anger. You've been… what? Interviewing potential wives? Through deception? Put that way, it did sound manipulative. I was being thorough. This is beyond inappropriate. It's intrusive and calculating. Perhaps, Folashade acknowledged, but I know my son, and I saw how he lights up around you and your work, something that hasn't happened in years. So, what was your plan? Engineer some romantic storyline where I fall for your son without knowing his mother was puppeteering the whole thing? I had no specific plan beyond observation. Folashade stood, meeting Biodun eye to eye. But now I see Tola returning, using your work to rebuild her own image while pushing you aside. History repeating itself. Biodun's anger seemed to deflate slightly. What Dayo does with his personal life is his business. But your designs, your vision, that is your business. Will you really let Tola take credit for your Nigerian heritage made modern? The stories your grandmother's hands told through fabric? A flicker of resolve crossed Biodun's face before uncertainty returned. Even if I wanted to fight for my work, Dayo has made his choice clear. Tola has the international name, the connections. Dayo respects strength and conviction. It's why he was first drawn to your designs. They have integrity. Show him the same quality in yourself. Biodun shook her head. This is all too strange. I need time to process this. We don't have much time. Fashion Week is 3 weeks away. Folashade reached into her cleaner's uniform pocket and pulled out a business card with her real contact information. When you're ready to talk, call me. As Biodun took the card, the stairwell door burst open. Dayo stood there, phone in hand, looking between the two women with growing confusion. Mama? What are you doing here? And why are you dressed as a cleaner? The three of them stood frozen in the stairwell. Folashade recovered first, straightening to her full height. Dayo, my son. I can explain. Dayo's expression cycled through confusion, shock, and finally settled on anger. Explain what exactly? Why my mother is dressed as a cleaner in my company building? Having some kind of secret meeting with my designer? Your designer, Billionaire murmured pointedly. Dayo glanced at her, then back to his mother. Someone called security about 2 women arguing in the stairwell. They checked the cameras and called me immediately when they recognized you, Mama. What is going on? Folashade squared her shoulders. 30 years in Ohye market had taught her that when caught in a difficult situation, bold honesty was often the best strategy. I've been working undercover as a cleaner for the past month to observe your staff, she stated plainly. You've been what? Dayo looked as if he might explode. After Tola, you closed yourself off, buried yourself in work, refused to consider a relationship. A son needs a wife, Dayo. A good one. So I came to see for myself the women in your company, to observe their true character. Dayo ran a hand over his face. This is insane. You infiltrated my company, spied on my employees? Do you have any idea how inappropriate this is? The legal implications? Desperate times, desperate measures. Folashade was unrepentant. And it worked. I found someone worthy of you. Billionaire, who had been watching this exchange with wide eyes, suddenly found Dayo's attention on her. Did you know about this? He demanded. I just found out myself. 2 minutes before you arrived, she replied, her voice steady despite the absurdity of the situation. Your mother has been Mama Joy to me until now. Dayo paced the small landing. I can't believe this. My own mother, conducting some bizarre wife interview process behind my back. Not interviews. Observations, Folashade corrected, and I observed plenty, including how quickly you let Tola return and take over Biodun's collection. That's a business decision. Tola brings international attention, Dayo snapped. At the cost of the collection's integrity, Billionaire said quietly. Dayo turned to her, surprised by her interjection. Excuse me? The modifications Tola suggested, lower necklines, shorter hemlines, removing the traditional symbolism, they fundamentally change what the collection represents. Billionaire continued, finding her voice. It becomes costume rather than cultural statement. Tola understands international markets. Tola understands how to center herself, Folashade interrupted. The question is whether you're falling back into old patterns, professionally and personally. Dayo's jaw tightened. This is completely inappropriate. Both of you in my office, now. He turned and yanked open the stairwell door. As they followed him, Billionaire whispered to Folashade, I could lose my job over this. Or you could gain much more, Folashade whispered back. In Dayo's office, he closed the door with controlled force and faced them. Explain yourself, Mama. Properly. I told you, I've been watching. Not that. Explain why you think I need your interference in my personal life. Because you're repeating mistakes, Folashade exclaimed. Tola broke your heart because her image always came first. Now she's back, and already she's putting her celebrity above your company's authentic vision. While Billionaire has been fighting for that vision, she continued, gesturing to the younger woman. Even when it meant standing up to you, that takes courage and integrity. So this was all a matchmaking scheme? Dayo looked incredulous. Call it quality control, Folashade replied with dignity. And what about you? Dayo turned to Billionaire. What's your role in my mother's manipulation? Billionaire met his gaze steadily. None. But now that I'm here, I do have something to say about the collection. And your ex-fiancé's influence on it. The tension in the room sharpened. The professional and the personal were about to collide spectacularly. Dayo leaned against his desk, arms crossed. I'm listening. Billionaire took a deep breath. The collection we developed tells a story of Nigerian heritage reimagined for today's world. Each pattern, each silhouette has meaning. What Tola proposes strips that meaning away for the sake of surface-level appeal. She has global expertise, Dayo countered. She has self-interest, Biodun replied, her voice gaining strength. This isn't about expertise, it's about whose story gets told. Is DaStyle going to present authentic Nigerian fashion to the world, or just another westernized version that's safe and digestible? The directness of her challenge hung in the air. Folashade watched her son's face, recognizing the conflict there, his business instincts warring with something deeper. The market responds to what sells, he finally said, but his tone lacked conviction. You didn't build DaStyle by following markets, Biodun pressed. You built it by creating something unique, something with integrity. She gestured to the awards lining his office walls. None of those came from playing it safe. Dayo's expression shifted subtly. Folashade recognized the look. It was the same one he'd worn as a boy when realizing he'd made a mistake but was too proud to admit it immediately. This isn't just about the collection, is it? He asked quietly. No, Biodun admitted. It's about patterns. The way you dismissed my designs until crisis forced you to see their value. The way you reinstated Tola's influence the moment she reappeared. The way what? There was an edge to his voice now. The way you judge too quickly, she finished, making assumptions about what has value and what doesn't. Dayo's eyes narrowed as he turned to his mother. Like judging cleaners as invisible? Is that the lesson here, Mama? Folashade accepted the rebuke with a nod. Perhaps we both needed that lesson. A knock interrupted them. The door opened to reveal Tola, stunning in a red dress, her smile faltering as she took in the scene before her. Am I interrupting? The receptionist said you were in a meeting, but I thought... Her eyes landed on Folashade in her cleaner's uniform. Recognition dawned. Mrs. Adeyemi? What on earth? Hello, Tola, Folashade said coolly. We were just discussing authenticity. Tola's eyes darted between them, calculating. I don't understand. My mother has been working undercover as a cleaner, Dayo explained flatly. Apparently to vet potential wives for me. Tola's perfectly made-up face couldn't quite hide her shock. That's unusual. We were also discussing the collection, Biodun added, refusing to be sidelined. Oh? The modifications are coming along well, Tola said smoothly. I've spoken with several international buyers who are very excited about the direction. The new direction that erases most of the cultural elements, Biodun noted. Tola's smile tightened. I'm making it marketable. You're making it about you, Biodun countered. Who exactly are you again? Tola's voice dripped with practiced condescension. The designer whose work you're claiming co-creation credit for, Biodun replied evenly. Tola turned to Dayo with a practiced, wounded expression. Dayo, what is happening here? I came back to help elevate your brand, and this is the reception I get. Dayo looked between the three women. His glamorous ex-fiancée, his stubborn mother in her cleaner's disguise, and Biodun with her quiet intensity. Folashade held her breath, recognizing the moment of decision. I need to think, he finally said. Alone. But the press release about my involvement goes out tomorrow, Tola protested. Postponed, Dayo stated firmly, as are all decisions about the collection. You can't be serious, Tola began, but something in Dayo's expression stopped her. Everyone out. Please. His voice was calm but absolute. As they filed toward the door, he added, Except you, Mama. We're not finished. Folashade squared her shoulders as the door closed behind Biodun and Tola, leaving mother and son alone at an impasse 3 decades in the making. After the door closed, silence filled the office. Folashade stood her ground, despite the strange vulnerability of facing her son while dressed as a cleaner. Take off that uniform, Dayo said quietly. I want to talk to my mother, not this character you've created. Folashade removed the cleaner's headscarf and straightened her posture fully. Even in the simple uniform, she regained the dignified bearing that had commanded respect in Oje Market for decades. This isn't a character, Dayo. This is also me. The me who raised you alone, who cleaned other people's houses when your father first died and the fabric business was struggling. Dayo's expression softened slightly at the reminder of their early hardships. That was different. Was it? Work is work. Dignity comes from how you do it, not what you do. She moved to sit in one of the sleek chairs facing his desk. I learned more in 3 weeks of cleaning your company than I would have in a year of attending your fancy corporate events. Dayo remained standing, struggling visibly with his emotions. You had no right, Mama. No right to infiltrate my company, to spy on my employees, to what? Interview potential daughters-in-law like they're fabric suppliers. I had every right as a mother who loves her son, Folashade replied firmly. You've been hiding behind work since Tola left. Lonely, but too proud and hurt to open yourself again. So you took matters into your own hands, without my knowledge or consent, because you wouldn't have given either. She leaned forward. Tell me I'm wrong. Dayo's silence was answer enough. I've watched you these past months, she continued more gently, working until midnight, pushing away anyone who tries to get close. That's not living, Dayo. That's surviving. I'm building something important, he defended. So was I. A family. She gestured to the window overlooking Lagos. All this means nothing without someone to share it with. Dayo finally sat behind his desk, the anger in his face giving way to exhaustion. Even if I agreed with your motives, which I don't, your methods are outrageous. You deceived everyone. You violated privacy and trust. Yes, she admitted simply. I did what I thought necessary. I am not sorry for trying to secure your happiness, though I am sorry for the deception. And Bio done? Was she your selection from your covert wife auditions? His tone was bitter. She wasn't an audition. She was a discovery. Folashade's voice softened. She reminded me of you before success hardened you. Passionate about her work, principled about her beliefs, unwilling to compromise what matters. And you think that makes her suitable for me? I think it makes her worthy of your consideration. She paused. More worthy than Tola's return. Dayo's jaw tightened. Tola and I are just working together. For now. But old patterns are comfortable, even destructive ones. She stood and walked to the window. The difference is that Tola wants what you can give her. Biodun wants what you can be. That's not fair to Tola. Perhaps not. But she hurt you once because her ambition came first. What's changed? Dayo had no answer. After a long silence, he asked, What do you expect me to do now? Make your own decisions, Folashade replied. But make them with your eyes fully open. About the collection. About Tola. About Biodun. About what kind of company and man you want to be. She moved toward the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. I'm going home to change out of this uniform. Your father would say I've meddled enough. Her voice softened. But he would also be so proud of what you've built, Dayo. Just don't forget to build a life alongside it. As the door closed behind her, Dayo remained at his desk, alone with the weight of revelations and choices yet to be made. Lagos Fashion Week arrived in a whirlwind of cameras, celebrities, and industry power players. The DaStyle show was scheduled as the grand finale, creating unprecedented anticipation. Behind the scenes, chaos reigned. Models rushed between makeup stations, stylists made frantic last-minute adjustments, and PR representatives herded international press. Folashade, dressed elegantly in traditional Aso Oke, sat in the front row, uncertain of what would unfold. After their confrontation 2 weeks earlier, Dayo had maintained professional distance, sharing no decisions about the collection, Tola, or Biodun. He's still angry with you? Mama Chinyere whispered beside her. Rightfully so, Folashade admitted. I overstepped. Did you, though? Look where we're sitting. Chinyere gestured to their premium seats. Whatever happened, he still honors you as his mother. The lights dimmed, silencing the audience. Anticipation filled the air as music began. Not the expected European electronic beats, but a modern interpretation of traditional Yoruba rhythms. When the first model appeared, Folashade gasped. The design was unmistakably Biodun's, the original vision intact with subtle refinements that enhanced rather than diminished its cultural elements. One by one, models showcased the collection, each piece telling a story of Nigerian heritage reimagined for the global stage. Most surprising was the model who closed the show. Not Tola, but a dark-skinned Nigerian woman with natural hair wearing the collection's centerpiece. A modern royal attire inspired by ancient Yoruba queens, complete with symbolic beadwork that glittered under the runway lights. The audience erupted in applause as Dayo appeared for the traditional designer bow. He paused, then gestured to the side of the stage. Billionaire emerged, surprise evident on her face. He extended his hand to her, drawing her forward to share the moment. Their fingers interlaced as they took the bow together. Afterward, at the exclusive after-party in the rooftop garden of Lagos's most prestigious hotel, Folashade found herself cornered by her son and Billionaire. "That was your vision we saw tonight," she said to Billionaire. "With Dayo's refinements," Billionaire acknowledged, "we found middle ground." "And Tola?" Folashade couldn't help asking. "Modeling in Paris," Dayo replied evenly. "We agreed her vision and mine no longer aligned." "Professionally or personally?" Folashade pressed. "Both." A hint of a smile played on Dayo's lips. "Some patterns are worth breaking." Billionaire turned to Folashade. "I wanted to thank you, despite the unorthodox circumstances. Standing my ground about the collection changed everything. Including us," Dayo added, his eyes on Billionaire with unmistakable admiration. "We've been working 18-hour days together. Somewhere between arguments about hemlines and color palettes, I realized that I was right," Folashade interjected with a mischievous smile. "That I needed to see what was already in front of me," Dayo corrected, echoing Biodun's words from weeks earlier. "Both in my designs and in my life. We're taking things slowly," Billionaire clarified, though her smile betrayed deeper feelings. "Professional respect first, then. We'll see." "A wise approach," Folashade approved. "Which reminds me," Dayo said, his expression turning serious. "Mama, I have a business proposition for you." "Oh?" "DaStyle is launching a mentorship program for young designers from humble backgrounds. We need someone who understands both traditional markets and modern business. Someone who can judge character accurately and sweep away preconceptions," Folashade suggested. Dayo laughed, the sound warming Folashade's heart. "Exactly. No disguise required this time." As they clinked champagne glasses, Folashade caught Biodun's eye over Dayo's shoulder. The young designer mouthed a silent, "Thank you," before turning her attention back to the man beside her. Some judgments, Folashade reflected, were worth making, even if the path to them required a broom and a mother's determination. Thank you for watching and listening to this short story. Subscribe and like for more stories like this.